Now we are being recorded. So I'm going to back up and say again, this is Recycling in Texas Parks and Wildlife Facilities with Andy Chamberlain and Scott Widner. And our presentation agenda is discussing the state of recycling in Texas, kind of where we're at in the state in terms of recycling and what the opportunities are to grow. And then talking about starting a recycling program. If your community is already recycling, that can be a little bit easier. And we'll talk about what one park is doing and has taken advantage of that situation. And then what to do if you're in a more remote location and you're hoping to recycle, but you don't have a hauler that's nearby. And then we'll talk about where we're headed as an agency, some of the goals that we've got and some of the expectations and things as we move forward. And then we'll open it up for questions and comments. I appreciate the comment that you guys can hear us and we sound all right. Thanks, Lisa. All right, so let's get started. The state of recycling in Texas. So these are just some stats about recycling. And so 6.1 million tons of material was collected for recycling in 2013. And this information comes from the Texas Recycling Data Initiative. So in 2013, the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling, STAR, it's a nonprofit for the recycling industry, got together with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, and they commissioned a study about what we recycle. And they wanted to give that information to legislature and to industry to kind of look at what this industry can do for the state of Texas. So that's where all of these numbers are coming from. So this is 2013 data, and we're looking at a new study's been done this past year, and we're looking at getting that information sometime in late 2017. So I can't share that yet, but consider this is from 2013. So 6.1 million tons of material were collected for recycling in 2013. And about 19% of municipal solid waste was recycled. So we're only capturing 19%. In 2014, the population census said that there were 27 million people in Texas. They project in 2040 for that to grow to 45 million, 66% increase. So as we talk about recycling, we also need to consider that our population is growing, and so the more we're able to recycle and divert waste from the landfill, the less waste we're generating, because those statistics, that's a lot of waste that's being generated and a lot of potential for recycling. And we can do better. We can do better than 19% of municipal solid waste recycled. So if we had 6.1 million tons of recycled waste, or recycled municipal solid waste, that includes about 500,000 tons of curbside recycling. That's, again, a 18.9% recycling rate. We can do better. So those are just some stats that I want to share with you guys, so kind of understand kind of the magnitude of why this is important. Recycling also generates a lot of jobs, so that's also very important for the state of Texas. This study said that in 2013, almost 12,678 jobs in Texas were supported by recycling, either directly, indirectly, or induced from the recycling industry. So that's pretty interesting. So let's get started on to actually starting a recycling program in your park or in your parks and wildlife facility. So some of our parks are blessed with being in urban areas. That is a blessing and a curse, but it does mean that a lot of communities are adopting curbside recycling in the area. And so that means that the recycling hauler is coming to your neighborhood, which means that you could possibly get a recycling contract in your park where maybe you weren't able to before, because recycling programs are expanding so quickly. So that's what happened at Bastrop State Park. And Cullen Sartor was not able to join us today, but he gave me a lot of good information about their park recycling contract and what they've done. So I'm going to talk about it for Cullen. But if you know somebody at Bastrop, feel free to reach out to those guys. or contact me with questions in the future. This is a good example of what you can do if recycling has come to your community. So you can sync your contract. So what Bastrop did is they waited until their waste contract was expiring, and then they talked with the waste hauler and put out tried to get a couple of bids from different haulers, specifically the one that was offering the curbside recycling in the community Bastrop. So when that contract expired, with their new contract, they included recycling, got bids. They eliminated 4 dumpsters because they were shifting that material to recycling. So they added 5 recycling containers. But even with that change, there was no change in their cost. So it was really a no-brainer. They were able to add recycling at no cost to the park. They purchased a few bins for the office, so there were some costs in just the materials of getting bins for recycling. But they also repurposed some existing waste bins in their park. You can see that picture in the middle with the blue bin at the playground. So they had these bins already in the park where they had 2 waste bins next to each other. So they repurposed one of the waste bins into a recycling bin just through paint and signage. And that's really important. It's something to really think about if you're going to start offering recycling, is that you want to have a recycling bin as close to the waste bin as possible, because they talk about like the decision point. When somebody's throwing something away, they decide, is this recyclable or is it trash? And a lot of people just are not going to go out of the way to recycle. They want to be able to have that convenience. And so that's something that you really should consider. And I think Bastrop did a really good job in doing that by repurposing those bins. They also bought recycling bags to help launch the program and to educate visitors. And this is something that I was kind of worried about when they said they were going to do this, because material recovery facilities, that's the MRFs, those facilities are the places where, like your curbside recycling, where everything's mixed together, all of that material goes and it's sorted apart. So that material recovery facility, or MRF, sorts apart all the recyclables. One of the things that MRF really has trouble handling are plastic bags. And so if you're considering using plastic bags in your program, make sure that your recycler is going to be okay with that. In this particular case, Bastrop purchased specific bags that were okay with the recycler, that would work with their MRF. So it's just something to keep in mind. But that's what Bastrop did, and they partnered with Keep Bastrop Beautiful for cleanup and included recycling in the cleanup. So this is about educating the community, educating the regular visitors that come to the park on a regular basis that, hey, we're offering recycling now. So everybody that came to the park got a bag with a note that said, hey, we recycle. Please put your stuff in this bag and put it in our recycling bins. And then they also used bins that we provided from the Texas Parks and Wildlife Sustainability Program. So you see those cute little kids in those green bins. I have about, I'd say, 200 of those bins right now in the parking lot of Building D here at headquarters. So if you're thinking, I need some bins to help launch my program, I've got some bins for you, and I would love to see those go out to the parks as soon as possible. And they came from a recycling program in San Antonio that they never actually got used, and so they're brand new bins. And we've even purchased stickers for the side of them that say Texas Parks and Wildlife Recycled, so you can label them. Great bins. So those are some resources about if your communities are already recycling. So I get a lot of questions. Okay, well, my community is not recycling. There's a hauler nowhere near me. How do I start a recycling program when my site is so remote? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how to get started. This is kind of your cheat sheet, and I think what I'm going to do is also create just a flyer from this webinar and post it when it's on the sustainability WildNet page with just this information. So this is the cheat sheet. Start small, but start something. Decide, I'm going to start trying to just recycle our office paper, or just collect aluminum cans. But it's a start. It's a way to start sending out the message. Identify your waste stream. Identify what's coming through your park and what you can recycle. Then you want to identify where you could possibly take it. Is there a community a couple towns over that is recycling? Could you work out with that community that you could drop off the recyclables when you go to a meeting that you go to every couple weeks? Whatever it is, be resourceful, but that's what seemed to work in the parks that are able to do this. And we've got some good examples, 2 different parks that are in fairly remote locations but are recycling. We talked about identifying where to take it and then identifying equipment and resource needs. So what are you going to need to get that material collected and then to the place where you want to get it recycled? So if you need bins, if you need people, whatever your resources are, start to take inventory, get that list together, and then ask people. Ask your friends groups, your community partners, your Keep Texas Beautiful affiliates. From talking to Cullen at Bastrop, Keep Bastrop Beautiful was really instrumental in helping them kind of get that message out. At Garner State Park, Keep Utopia Beautiful helped do a waste audit that I'm going to talk about in a little while. So those community partners can really be strategic friends in helping get your program launched. And then let me know. Let the sustainability program help. I have connections to bins a lot of times. I put the word out that our parks need bins, and so when programs are closing out bins or they've got extras, they often call me. So if you need bins, I can potentially help you out. No promises, but I will try. And then consider even starting a pack it out recycle program. So if you can't find any solutions, there's no way for you to take care of the waste, maybe consider teaching people about pack it out. I encourage visitors to bring a bag or a bin to hold recyclables when they're visiting the park. So maybe you post something on your website like, hey, we don't recycle, but you can take it back, take back your recyclables with you. Provide visitors with a bag and information about why your park doesn't offer recycling. I think a lot of people are really surprised when I tell them how expensive and difficult it is for parks to recycle. Especially when they're out in rural areas and a hauler really can't afford to drive all that way to pick up just a truckload of recyclables from a park. It really becomes cost ineffective. But if everybody took responsibility for their waste, then we wouldn't have the issues. We would have less waste and more recycling. So it's really about teaching leave no trace principles. And one of the leave no trace principles is packing out your trash. I found this on the internet. Just somebody had made some of these different infographics about the different leave no trace principles, and I really think this could apply to recycling. Don't bring stuff with you that needs to be trash. Unwrap your snack items, get everything ready so you don't create more waste than you need to, and then pack it out with you when you leave. So that's what a pack it out program is all about. If you just can't do anything else, maybe just educating visitors that they can take it with them is a way to get started. So let's talk about Fort Parker State Park. So they're out there close to Waco, but still not close enough to Waco to take their recyclables. It's still a little bit of a way to go. So what happened at Fort Parker is they had a park host help start the recycling program. So I know, Tom Fisher, you're on the call, so if I get anything wrong, type in and let me know. But they had a park host help start the recycling program, and so what they do is they collect the recyclables that are typically generated by the park office. So that includes boxes and paper and bottles and cans. And when I talked to the recycler, he even mentioned cleaning supplies. So they're collecting those, and they keep them in their maintenance yard. They've got a couple of bins that they collect the items, and then the site is just down the street, and it's really kind of a community recycling, hauling, sorting center. It's not a MRF. It's not the state of the art. I imagine this material gets sorted and then sent to probably Waco or the next kind of major recycling collection area. But it's sort of a hub for that small community, and it's just really incredible how the park volunteers made that happen. And then so now they're collecting what what happens in the office or what's generated out of the office. And they even have an agreement that the hauler or the recycling center will pick it up when they can. They're just down the street, but even when they're closed, the park can call and say, "Hey, can we come drop stuff off?" And they've worked it out. It's a nice community partnership. The recycling center uses community service hours to sort the recyclables, so they can kind of put everything together, and it's a mixed recycling. But then when it gets to the center, they're using folks who need to earn some community service hours to help sort that. And they are working to expand the program to offer it to the public. So they've already looked at, in a couple areas, they've got some vending machines, and so they would collect bottles and cans from those vending machines. And they're also considering including waste oil, because that's something that they collect at the center and something that the park might generate. So it's kind of a good example of what's going on with Fort Parker. So let's talk about Enchanted Rock. Scott's on the line, and he's been so quiet. Are you still there, Scott?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right. Turn it over to you so you can talk to us about Enchanted Rock.
All right. Well, obviously not Enchanted Rock anymore, but we had to, in reference to kind of the steps that you already mentioned, Andy, the starting small, which was we were already a busy park, so we had I went ahead and we went big. So we had a number of every year we get a donation from Whole Earth Provisions and Chaco Sandals, and they look to us to find something to do with that money, whether it's usually something sustainable that's going on that we want to do with the park. In the past, it was they did low flow water like shower heads and faucets in the park, which saved us thousands of gallons of water that had been wasted over the years. And then putting signage out, we also did a rainwater collection on our large pavilion, which put we call it the Firewater program, and it's utilized specifically to capture rainwater off of the group picnic pavilion. That I think it's about a 20,000 gallon container that, in case wildfires for not only the park but also the neighbors to the park, if there ever was a wildfire threatening the land around us. But when I came on, there was not even a recycling program in place. So of course the thought was, let's get we really need to get recycling going. We had 300 plus thousand people a year, and there was a lot of plastic water bottles going through that park. Every person that walks up there, sometimes they don't have water with them, but you would see most everybody carrying around a 8 to 16 ounce water bottle, Ozarka water bottle, or whatever the HEB throwaway plastic bottle was, and you're wondering, why is this all going into the trash? And so the thought was, well, let's get some of these, instead of these silver Oscar the Grouch trash cans that are laying around the house and on our trails that look kind of unsightly and don't really advertise put something in me. It was I said, well, let's get with our donors and get Chaco and Whole Earth to donate these massive more smell-proof and almost bomb-proof bear boxes that have recycling on one side and trash on the other. So in February 2015, we finally received those containers, put them out on our trail system, and of course the results were what you see on your screen right now. At 2.5 tons of recyclable plastic, I assume after spring break this year, probably hit close to 3 tons in 2.5 years, and it was looking at the equivalents. It shows what saved, what those equivalents are, because obviously identifying that waste stream was our plastic bottles. We didn't get a lot of aluminum, even though we probably, it probably captured plastic bottles was definitely the resource right there that we needed to capture. So the problem was we didn't have anywhere to take it. So we, while we were trying to start small and didn't, things just kind of added up. So I got with the local Ace Hardware, and they donated a whole bunch of these large hard-sided containers where we could, every time we took the recycling out, we had somewhere to store it. Also in that picture, you see some volunteers, so we had to sort it. So I have two of the volunteers in that picture, which would be Rose Ellis and Russell Vowell. They come out every single week, and they basically sort through all of our recycling. And they go through 10 to 20 bags of recycled every week, putting the blue gloves on. They sort it from plastic to the numbers, the twos, what our recycling people in Fredericksburg accept, and then they actually have to take it into Fredericksburg to the recycling center every week as well. They because there is no recycling system in place at the park because we're 18 miles from town, and Fredericksburg, the city, doesn't even have a recycling program for the neighborhoods. They just have a centralized recycling center. So every week that gets sorted and then taken into town. And then the next year it came up, so they said, okay, well, what do you want to use the Chaco and Holers provision for money this year? And we went with these water bottle refill stations. So it all started tying into one centralized theme, which was BYOB, bring your own bottle, refill at our stations. And of course, they have these little tickers on there that tell us how many bottles were taken out of the waste stream by you refilling your own water bottle. So kind of giving the intended education unintendedly, I guess you could say. But all of this wouldn't have been done without the help of just working with our friends group, talking with partners in the community, such as like getting to know the people at Ace Hardware, or even the local government to say, hey, we're going to be bringing pounds and pounds of plastic water bottles to your recycling center. Can you accept it? I mean, is this going to be something that we can work with to get somewhere? That was because it was going to go from, Grandma and Grandpa Smith down the corner bringing a couple of milk crates full of cans every week to a guy with a truck full of bags of full of plastic water bottles.
If I can jump in there, Scott, and say that
Yeah.
the haulers and recycling centers, it might go counterintuitive to think that they don't want that material, but especially in more rural areas, they're looking for to kind of aggregate all of that stuff together. So the more they can collect, the better it is for their bottom line. So they are actually wanting some of that stuff in a lot of cases.
Absolutely, and showing that it was actually, and maybe showing a need when you've got some of these types of things coming into your recycling center, is something to prove maybe they need more funding,
Yeah.
maybe they need some more help. But also in that picture, it was Leave No Trace actually chose Enchanted Rock as a hot spot, which would mean isn't always necessarily a good thing. It was a park that was being loved to death, and that goes into the pack it in, pack it out types of things, where it was not only were we working with our friends groups and our community partners, but we were also, as the interpreter, it was conservation, sustainability was part of the everyday talk. It came into my programs. It came into being able to not necessarily preach it, but actually just educating the people that come into the park. Kind of they have to go hand in hand. If you don't have a staff that's on board with what you're doing, that message isn't going to get across. And
it's so important. We're a conservation agency,
Yes, absolutely.
it's part of what we should all be doing. And if I can wrap up the Enchanted Rock thing, and that leads right into where we're headed as an agency. Um,
Absolutely.
we have the support and an expectation from our visitors and the public to recycle. So in 2014, we got confirmation of that. There was I mentioned Keep Utopia Beautiful got together with Geoforce students and did a waste audit at Garner State Park in 2014 spring break. And they found some really interesting things. They found that more than 50% of the waste that was collected in the park was easily recyclable. So easily, like bottles and cans, the easy stuff. They also found that when they interviewed all the different families and different folks, the hosts and the staff, that so many people, even if they didn't recycle at home, expected the park to be recycling. Actually, 80% or 79% of people expected that park to recycle. And so I think, we have these visitors coming to our parks that really have this high expectation that we're going to offer recycling. So either educating them about why we don't, or offering a way for them to recycle is something that's really important. And it, again, is in line with our mission. 36% of park visitors were not aware, even though they expected the park to recycle, they were not aware that Garner State Park was offering aluminum can recycling at the time. So it's also about educating about where your recycling opportunities are, making sure that the park visitors know about them. So our goal is to offer recycling in at least 50% of our facilities by 2020. And this is part of our 2020 sustainability plan. It's a 5-year plan that started in 2015. And you can get to that and read all about it on the WildNet. But another part of building that sustainability plan, something that State Parks has been working on kind of from the executive level. Russell Fishbeck, your State Parks Deputy Director, is developing a baseline survey. So I think it's going to come back. I think they're going to wait after spring break, so you guys can just deal with the madness that is spring break. But after spring break, a survey request is going to be coming out from Russell about kind of what your park is doing, where you want to go, what some of the things you're thinking are, so we can just start to understand where we're at as an agency and trying to implement some of these conservation programs or sustainability programs. So like I mentioned, the WildNet, if you're curious about what's going on and what kind of resources are out there, there is a sustainability page. And if you go to support services right here, that will take you to a link that shows you a bunch of different places or information on the WildNet. But the sustainability plan is there, and you can find the plan and green team information and events and resources. And under resources is where these webinars are going to be housed. So look for that in the future. A couple more links for you. State of Texas Alliance for Recycling. I want to give them a shout out. They've been really a great partner when we say, hey, we need some bins, or recycling in rural areas is really hard. What can be done in the industry to help with that? They're being very responsive. They're trying really hard. They've hosted some webinars and helped us out with some materials and things. So shout out to STAR. And then also the Cooperative Teamwork and Recycling Assistance group, that is CTRA. And they work primarily with rural and more remote locations to help with recycling programs, including electronics recycling and kind of hard to recycle items, battery collection, a bunch of different things. And so those are two really good resources to keep in mind. And then also partnerships, leverage those partnerships out there, like friends groups, look for friends group funding. I know that was really helpful in getting some of the stuff done at Enchanted Rock. Business sponsorships and donations, those were very helpful. Keep Texas Beautiful affiliates, I mentioned. Texas Master Naturalists are often big supporters of recycling and waste diversion. Your city, town, county recycling centers. developing a relationship with them and saying, hey, we've got these recyclables, can we bring them to you, um, and working that stuff out. And then wanted to mention SPARK, the Supporting Partnerships and Recycling Knowledge Forum that we have in Austin every February. So we just missed this 2017 on February 22nd, but it'll be coming around in 2018. So just mark your calendar and look for that if you want to get involved and learn more about recycling. Kind of some why to recycle stuff to help close this out. The average person generates 4.3 pounds of waste per day. That's up from 1.6 pounds in 1960. So I just think we're becoming more of a disposable society, and I think we all know that, but it's why recycling is more and more important, especially as our population increases. Recycling creates jobs. In 2012, we could have created 5,700 more jobs if we just recycled 10% more. So it's a job creator. And our park visitors expect it. They want and expect it. Almost 80% of our park visitors come to the park expecting to recycle. Last but not least, our mission statement. To manage and conserve the natural and cultural resources of Texas, to provide hunting, fishing, and outdoor recreation opportunities for the use and enjoyment of present and future generations. So the stuff I underlined, I think it's pretty much what sustainability is. It's preserving the resources for use today and in the future. So that's why it's so important for Parks and Wildlife to consider starting these recycling programs, beefing them up, and helping rural communities recycle. So this is just one of 4 webinars that I'll be offering this year. So this is our recycling one, March 9th. In June, I'll be offering a webinar about utilities and renewables. In September, talking about dark sky lighting and efficient lighting. And then in December, about water conservation. So mark your calendars, plan to join us again, but if you're not able to make it, these are being recorded. And so they will be posted on the WildNet. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank Scott for joining us and talking to us. And I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to be on the call. It looks like there were a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Do you want?
Yeah, I think Tom's got one about Spark or Star.
Okay. Do you want us to contact and work directly with Star or work through you? Is the question. You can do either one. Star is a great resource. Sarah Nichols is the executive director, and she has one staff person, Erin. And so between Sarah and Erin, they can try to answer your questions and try to help you out. But I'm also happy to direct those questions. It's such a small team that it really doesn't matter. But I'm happy to help you if there's some resources that you're looking for. Let me know, even if you are going to contact Star directly, because I may have already had some stuff. Like I mentioned before, I've got those recycling bins. We've got a couple of them, and Tom, I think I already talked to Richard, your recycling guy, and we're going to try to get some bins out to your facility for capturing those recyclables in the day use visitor area. So like the bottles and cans from the vending machine. Were there any other questions? I only see the one from Tom. Nora is raising her hand, but I don't know how to. Nora, if you have a question, would you please type it into the to the question tab? I'm sorry, I am new to this webinar stuff, so I apologize if you're not able to do that. But what we can do also is if you've got any other questions that pop up that you didn't think of right now, but you think about later, send me an email, and I will share those on our WildNet when we post the webinar. So I'm sure that more questions will come up. It's a difficult thing. I know that I struggled with making this sound a little easy because I know that it's not. It is difficult to start a program, and it's difficult to convince sometimes your other staff and the visitors and you've got a bunch of other things to do. But I just want to reiterate how important it is, how in line it is with our mission statement, and with the benefit of Texas in jobs and then financially and also for the environment and our resources. So thank you all
And
again for your time. Go ahead.
I would add that just when you think that not everybody else is on board in your park, you may just mention it, or in whatever department you're in with Parks and Wildlife, you might mention it to somebody going by and be surprised who actually is interested in helping out with the program. It's kind of hard to do by yourself if you don't have the backup of volunteers or staff, but you might be surprised. So I encourage everybody to don't give up on it.
Great point. There are a lot of people who are very concerned about this stuff, including folks like Brent Leisure and Russell Fishbeck. So they are starting to take notice and make some efforts to try to, like I said, get a baseline of where parks are and try to push that needle forward. We've got the sustainability plan and some goals within that. We've got a green team, and so this is all part of just moving forward and walking the walk, and being true to our mission statement. All right, you guys, thank you so much again for your time, and I look forward to seeing you guys at the next webinar. Have a wonderful morning.
Yes, goodbye.
Goodbye.